Hey y'all, welcome to the Wellness Collective. I'm Ashley,
And I'm Candy.
and we have a great conversation coming up tonight. Um, as you may know, mental health is making strides. Historically, however, women's issues were diagnosed as hysteria or called women problems, right? It wasn't until recently that women's mental health has gotten the attention that it deserves. We've discussed disorders, self-care, and other aspects of mental health on this show. But today, as we celebrate Women's History Month, I know y'all see our purple. As we celebrate Women's History Month, we're taking a closer look at the impact of recent events on women's mental health and how the stories of women who have come before us can provide inspiration and guidance for our own mental wellness journeys. So sit back, relax, and join us as we delve into this important topic.
Yes, I agree. Basically, the ongoing struggles and challenges that women still face in society and how they can be addressed to improve women's mental health and well-being is what we're going to talk about today. Not being in a good mental state can have you feeling inadequate in many ways. Mental conditions like body dysmorphia will create illusions in your mind based on what you see or don't see in the mirror. When I'm not in a good place mentally, I see myself differently, inadequate, overweight, unattractive, but it's all false. And I know that because having mental clarity or being in a better space mentally allows me to love what I see and have grace and work to improve myself overall. Um, yeah, so we're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about women that deal with these problems. Famous women that you may or may not know have dealt with these problems and how they've overcome or how they've been stigmatized based off them accepting and acknowledging their mental disparities and different ways that they've worked on it. So today our guests are going to talk about what they've done pre and post pandemic to keep their mental wellness on the up and ups.
Hmm. I feel like me
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago and me right now are like even 4 years ago and me right now are like totally different people.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because regular growth that people would have, with self improvement or whatever, but this pandemic has totally changed like my mindset,
Mm-hmm.
how I relate to my mental health, how I take care of myself. So I'm very super excited to get into this conversation. I'm going to bring our guests on the stage. And hi, ladies.
Hi,
Hi.
ladies.
Feel free to introduce yourselves. Tell us your name, what you do, and whatever else information you want to tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Amber, Amber J. That's what I like to go by. Um, I guess what I do for a living professionally, I'm in sales, most recently software sales. So that's what I do professionally. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So yeah, and I'm excited to be here and have this conversation.
Awesome. Glad to have you.
And I'm Adina Archibald. I am actually in the mental health field. I am a director of clinical services at a psychiatric facility. Um, I'm originally from New York, but I currently live in Vegas.
Cool. Awesome.
Welcome, both of you. I'm so happy to have you both. I know you both personally. Amber, I've known for about 20 years, and Dina, I met last year on a wonderful trip. So I'm excited to hear your perspective on this topic and just normalize what we do to take care of ourselves and just talk it all out. So let's get into it, Ashley. I'm ready. I've been so excited to have this chat.
I am too. And thank you, ladies, for showing up and being a part of this conversation. So this collective was born through adversity. Had it not been for COVID, we would probably still be dealing with a lot of mental health issues on our own. I know I would. One thing I've learned through this show is that self talk and self care takes many forms and can be the biggest game changer in dealing with mental health. What was your self care regimen before COVID, and did it change during and after? Well, during, because we're still in it.
So I go first.
Sure.
Whoever takes the stage.
Okay. So and it's funny, I was thinking about that question, like, because I don't know if I had a self-care regimen or what I deemed as my self-care regimen. Like, of course, I went to get like manis, petties. That is my thing that I do to calm, relax. So when I think like getting my nails, mani pedis, and my hair. Actually, I feel like that is absolute a form of self-care. Being able to go get my hair done, I have a really good relationship with my stylist. So being able to go talk, vent, talk about different things, whether it's spirituality, we talk about mental health. So that was like what my, I guess, self-care routine was prior to the pandemic. Now in the pandemic, actually it started with I did an abundance meditation with Candace. Yeah. So that kind of started my self-care routine is now. I have it's called Deepak Chopra has an app called the Chopra app that has a bunch of different meditations, programs. So I meditate on there quite frequently. I do a lot of journaling. Whether it's, and my journaling isn't really like journaling what's happening now. I kind of journal, like I have a gratitude journal. So I do write things that I'm grateful for, so in the morning I'm writing what I'm grateful for, what I can, like, what will make this day great. And when I say what will make this day great, things that I can control. So I write down what things that I can control, and then I write a daily affirmation. Then at the end of the day, I go and I write what I've learned, like the highlight of the day and what I've learned. And that as being a part of my self-care routine has allowed me to look for, like, pretty much put me in a space of gratitude. And then it allows me, as I'm going throughout my day, to look for like positive things. So because I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to journal the highlight of the day, I'm now going throughout the day looking for good things versus good. So that's become a part of my self-care routine. Just a lot of meditation, journaling. I have a therapist. I always had a therapist. So actually that was pre-pandemic. So but talking to my therapist, that is what I'll say is really like my self-care routine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dina, I want you to answer, but I have so much to chime in on Amber's. I'll probably have some to chime in on yours, but I'm like, ooh. All right. So Dina.
Well, I'm an extrovert. So pre-pandemic, my self-care looked different and it involved other people. Mm-hmm. So it was, I want to spend time with my girlfriends and go to the spa. Let's go have dinner and just have a dialogue about what's going on with us. Let's have a party in the house and everybody come over and bring their kids and let's have a good time. So obviously all of that had to stop. And because I didn't have the experience where I got to work from home or I got to do things because I'm in healthcare, that I didn't have a moment during the pandemic, especially when it was at its height, to kind of focus on what I needed to do for myself in those moments because I lost the things that I enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. Therapists, people at taking care of themselves though, because they're running around taking care of everybody else. Mm-hmm. So what I actually started to do was implement the things that I would tell my patients. So it was a lot of the things that you just brought up. It was, okay, well, maybe I need to journal. I really got into reading while the pandemic was going on. I would do things like set calls up so we could have Zoom calls and do brunch that way. I just got as creative as I possibly could to ensure that I was able to maintain those relationships and maintain that thing that filled my cup up without having to physically be in someone's space.
Yes. So as a host, I also feel like I have to be a guest because I need to chime in on both of those and like just reiterate the power of the journaling. So pre-pandemic, I've had journals, I've worked out, I've exercised, done all these things, but being in the pandemic and being isolated created this reality, this reality check of self. Whereas you were checking in on people and we got into Zoom calls. I'm a mentor in this lovely organization, the Royalty Project. And we were so scared. We were like, okay, well, we're going to have these weekly check-ins. We're going to make sure we're all good. It's quiet. All we hear is ambulances. The first few months of COVID, we would just hear ambulances in the street, cop cars, and it would just be silent. And it was so scary. It's like, are y'all picking up somebody that's dead or what's going on? So it would be like this check-in that we would do during COVID. that help kind of keep us connected to each other. Dina, you said you're an extrovert. I describe myself as an introvert. People don't see that, but by definition, I am an introvert. And but I needed people. You know, you realize you need people, and that's a part of your self-care. Post-pandemic, I mean, we're still in it, but we're in a different phase of it. I realized that alone time is important. You know, the journaling, the gratefulness. Amber actually got me the same journal, and I write in it every day. And you do look for these things that are going to be your highlight. Oh, is this my highlight? Oh, what's my highlight? And, you know, there's a spot for 3 different highlights. Sometimes I have 7 and I just fill them in. You look for these things to build you up and to put you in a place of gratefulness. And that does help you overall. So that I definitely feel. And I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that for sure. So I appreciate that post. You think that you will take what you were doing during the pandemic, but I'm doing something totally different that's working, and journaling is definitely one of them. So thank you for my journal.
Welcome.
Yeah. Ashley, you want to chime in on that before we go to the next little piece?
Yes, I did want to chime in first, though. I have a question for Amber. You listed a lot of different things that you do. Were they all things that came gradually, or did you just go head first and like, I got a journal, gratitude journal, and
Oh no,
the same?
gradual. Everything was kind of gradual. So started with again with the abundance program. So as I started with that, and I really enjoyed it. It did because it was chaotic during that time. We did it right like during the onset, I think, of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was like April, May.
Yeah, so we did it when it was during the stay-at-home order. And then I had so much other crazy stuff going on in my life, so it really allowed me to like just focus on that what's good in my life. And knowing that abundance is many things. So because I love that program so much, I downloaded Deepak Chopra's app at the time, and he has a bunch of different 21-day meditation programs. So for me, it started there gradually. Then, of course, when you're into things, you're having conversation with friends. Because as I'm going through this journey, some of my friends or people are kind of on the same journey. So we're talking, we're sharing different things we're doing. And then, you know, so sharing that, the gratitude journal is actually something a former coworker put me on. Just was talking to her just about, you know, my mindset, how you, I'm just talking to her about manifestation, law of attraction, like just my mindset. And she's like, are you aware of the gratitude journal? So I'm like, no. And she's like, look into it. I looked into it, loved it. I'm a sharer. So I'm one of them people, when I find something that really helps me and I'm like, oh, this is so good, I share. So I shared it with Candace, shared the gratitude journal with a few people. So found that out. Then, of course, like a friend, watch a lot of YouTube. So I do a lot, watch a lot of YouTube videos. It's really just picking up things along the way. But no, it wasn't just kind of like, oh, I'm going to just jump in. So yeah, it was definitely gradual. And I almost forgot fitness. I started today, actually, is my 1-year anniversary.
Oh,
yes, I started back Orange Theory last year today. And today was my 1-year anniversary. So that really became my form of self-care. Like losing weight, I had to really like tune in, lose weight. And I'm proud of myself because I've never been this consistent on the with a fitness regimen or anything. Like I've never in a whole year. So, but yeah, and then as you feel better, you know, I think you just start picking up on things.
Yes. Well, congratulations on that 1 year.
Yes.
You mentioned something about your coworkers sharing something with you, and I kind of want to segue into this. Just basically wellness days, and a lot of places have that. A lot of places have implemented wellness days, and I just want to share. I used to work for a 100-year-old civil rights organization based out of New York City, and we acquired wellness days over time, and it was almost like taboo to take them. You know, as women, as Black women, as you know, whatever demographic you fall in, a woman of color. You almost feel like you have to just show up no matter what, right? And we don't take into account our mental wellness. I mean, I feel like this group of ladies, we're like, no, I am. But it took for me to really hit rock bottom. Like I was on my way out of that organization and I had all this time accumulated. I'm like, I actually need it. And there's this stigma around, being mentally okay, when you have a bad day, or if you're depressed, these terms, we're not given enough grace to actually have those diagnoses, PTSD, bipolar, depression, to where we're almost like guilted if we need a mental break. I remember, one of my superiors, she had caught COVID, and our boss, the president, was kind of upset and still wanted her to go to a conference. Like, she had COVID. And I bring that up because work will take a mental toll on you. And we're given these outlets to take a break. And it's almost like we're guilted. Have either of you ladies, and I know I'm going off script, Ash, I'm compelled,
Okay.
but either of you ladies, have you experienced like the workplace almost making you feel like bad for trying to prioritize your health, mental health, not physical health, not, oh, I sprained an ankle, I can't come in, but like, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need some time. Have you experienced that?
Unfortunately, I'm overwhelmingly so, especially during the height of it. For me, it was like, oh, you're not dying though, so you can come to work. Oh, it doesn't matter that your kid has to now go to school online. People in here are suicidal, so that's not a thing. Um, or even giving us the space when school started to shut down to find arrangements for our kiddos. I have a little one. And finding an arrangement was, oh, you put him in private school, or somebody has to figure it out without you being able to attend to whether or not he's completing his tasks at school. They didn't even want to give us, like a week to arrange school placements. They were firing people because they couldn't come in because their children had to now be home. But what do you want me to do with my kindergartner? Do I lose my career because I have this other thing that I must attend to? Or do I have to make those sacrifices? So it happened quite frequently, that there was a push when you were in healthcare that your feelings couldn't matter in this moment because people were in full crisis mode.
Yeah. Amber, have you experienced that?
No.
Well, you work
remotely, and even before, no, I have. Well, the company that I work for, they actually have a mental health. They call it an R&R day, so they gave employees off one Friday a month, just to relax, to R&R. But even before that, I feel like I had just a really flexible career. Just the type of space that I work in. So I've always had that flexibility, and I don't even know if this is a good thing to say, but I just don't even operate like that, honestly. Like, that's
a wonderful thing to say.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel bad about it. I do. Like, sometimes when people are like, oh, I'm working still so late, and that's because sometimes I'm like, okay, is my work ethic not there? Because when I tell you, when I'm done with work, I'm done with work, and you're not going to make me feel bad. Like, I remember I did have a job one time, and I stated something about, oh, I may be a little late because I dropped my son off at this time, and he was like, oh, well, this, that, and I can't remember what he said, but I'm like, well, I'm a mom first, so I mean, what are we gonna do? Like, I am in this space. I'm gonna go to my son's stuff, and I mean, if it's a problem, I don't even think that's the type of company I can work for. So I'm just in that space where I don't let work take over my world. Like, I have a life outside of that.
I think a part of my mental health and journey and overall well-being came from me saying I can't work for places that don't understand that I'm a mom first. I was laid off from said company because I relocated to be closer to my son, for a better, quality of life, all those things. And, they acted like they understood, but the powers that be, they weren't moms. They weren't wives. They weren't even girlfriends, for that matter. So they don't have that lens of where, okay, I understand you prioritizing your home or your family over work. I don't work in a emergency room. I worked in a service organization. So that was a blessing, actually, them laying me off, because I was able to ask God and claim, you know what, I need a job that has flexible hours. I need to work remote full time. I need to be able to prioritize my life, and then this work that comes that will fit into my life. So I hear you all the way on. I love that you're saying this. It's not a bad thing to say I don't operate like that, because you need to step into that, and claiming that and having that is a part of mental wellness. I feel so much better mentally because I work for a company that is not down my back if I don't answer an email in 15 minutes. or I'm just able to have a flexible work schedule
Mhm.
because I work from home. So that's a
Mhm.
blessing. Yeah, I think the pandemic also created those spaces and normalized that type of work and
Yeah.
that work ethic. It's not a lack of work ethic. It is a work ethic to
Mhm.
prioritize your life in your home and then work. And that's not taken away from anybody that is a workaholic or that work is their priority or anything like that. But it's like everybody doesn't function like that. Everybody
Yeah.
does not function like that. So cheers. That was a big reason I left New York. I'm like, that hustle life,
That hustle bustle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get
Agreed.
away.
Same. I left as well.
Yeah, that hustle, it doesn't feel good for everybody. Like even me thinking about New York in the subway or traveling to work, who I'm gonna bump into or what? No.
Mhm.
I'm on this couch a
I
lot.
think it's interesting that this conversation, the way that it's going, is kind of getting to like one of my self-care things that I learned after the pandemic was setting boundaries and having like setting expectations properly. That has been like something major that's come from the pandemic because um at first it was like radio silence, and I didn't have the I'm not in close proximity to hear like the ambulances and things that were out here in Texas. But one of the things that did happen was we started having more group chats, more group calls, more check-ins. And then I'm trying to make everybody check in. I'm checking on everybody checking on me. I'm on Zoom calls all day. I work all day. And then after I get off work, I'm on Zoom call, Zoom call, Zoom call. I had to learn to be like, Ashley, you need a break. You can't be on everybody's call. Ain't nobody gonna die if you don't show up on the Zoom call. They're gonna be like, oh, Ashley must be asleep finally.
Right. Yes. Boundaries, the B word, like that is such a power. Saying no or even saying yeah, the power or the choice to have either option. But that's a big thing I'm learning as well. Like, no, I can't do it. I like that. That's one of my favorite. No, I can't. I can't. I wanted to bring up, now we mentioned initially in the beginning of the show that we were going to talk about some public figures that deal with certain mental illnesses and just the stigma erasing of these illnesses because women of color, just how we can't have depression. You just having a bad day or bipolar. No, you're just a character or whatever. But people like Jennifer Lewis who have dealt with bipolar disorder and also a sex addiction and being so comfortable to come out and normalize this, like, yeah, these feelings you're feeling are deep depression. That is a thing. We can have those things. And even medicating. Jennifer Lewis has been in therapy for 7 years and probably has been medicated for about 10 years based on my research. I just think us saying those things out loud on a platform and saying it's okay to give into that. You can have this holistic lifestyle. I was Miss Vegan, workout 3 times a week. I had abs, this, that, and the third. And I was diagnosed with PTSD about 12 years ago and for the first time. And every time I was diagnosed, I felt healed. Oh, no, I'm not taking medicine. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go find somebody to love me. I'm going to go, do this or that. I'm going to travel. And this December, I hit rock bottom. Amber knows I was in the darkest place that I've ever been. I've never had suicidal thoughts until then. I've never been so in such a place of disparity until then. And like I said, medication, I think within our community is not something that we are first go to, right? We don't say, oh, I feel so sad. Let me go get medicine or let me go get diagnosed and get medicine. It took me 12 years of having a diagnosis before I decided, something has to give. A chemical imbalance is a real thing, right? And how my psychiatrist spoke on it is like, if someone has an asthma attack, they don't just say, okay, let me just try to catch my breath. They take a pump. Right? They have a pump and they get better. If someone has an allergic reaction, they're going to use an EpiPen. It's like you can be depressed and need something chemically to balance you out. And I am like the poster child. I couldn't wait to say this for fluoxetine. I'm on a low dose of it. These past 3 months have been the brightest and clearest months I've ever had in my entire existence. And I was not an advocate for medication. you know, and there's this stigma that I didn't realize I felt that way about it, but there's a real stigma about us taking medicine because, oh, you're weak or this or that. And I just wanted to say that in a public space, like it's okay to know that and accept that for what it is, and get the help you need. I've never felt better. I mean, I have other things in place like the journaling and friends that journal and people that understand you and want to give you, you know, religious insight and support. But it's okay to need medicine to regulate yourself chemically. Like Dina, you work in a health field, so you know that there are cases where it's like, no, you need to be regulated.
Absolutely.
And it works, you know, and I just want to erase that idea, you know, on this platform that it's something you can't be a naturalist or a holistic person and get that actual medical support. So fluoxetine for the win. Ladies, what is your take on that? Amber, Dina, do you feel like that is something within our society that tells us that we're not allowed to have these mental illnesses, that we're having a bad day, or we're this or we're that? Like, what's your take on that?
I mean, I have found it even in my personal life. When I went to school to do this, I was told, what are you doing that for? We don't support things like that. Like, Caribbean people don't see therapists, so why are you going to go be a therapist? That's not a thing. You don't go tell people your business from your house. Or we worry about a variety of things. Parents worry about, oh, is CPS going to come to my house because I'm taking medication? They're going to come take my kids. There's just an overarching feeling of distrust when it comes to this particular experience for people. I'm very grateful that I'm starting to see a change where my patients don't all. A lot of my patients look like me. The other part to it, the flip side of that is that there are not a lot of clinicians that look like me either. So when we're going to seek out services and we're going to get services, we want somebody who we feel is going to understand us, in particular if it's our first time seeking out those services. So I want somebody who understands, as you know, a woman from the Caribbean, how I'm going to raise my kids and understand what my values and my norms and where they come from lie. But if there's no clinicians available to do that, I'm less likely to seek out those services, and I'm going to feel condemned by the people in my own community, because they're going to tell me things like what you mentioned, Candy, pray it away, or oh, you just need to go to church more often, or oh, you make it too much out of this. Yeah,
have something to drink.
Right, have something to drink, which is the worst thing you could do.
The opposite of what you're supposed to do. Right.
Because Amber, you saw the alcoholism rate went significantly with the pandemic.
I know that was one of my escapes, and I realized it was getting out of control. Like, I realized I was drinking every day at one point. I mean, I had lost all this weight and was working out, but then the flip side was like, okay, I'm where I want to be physically, but I was not good in my head. I was not good in my heart. I have body dysmorphia. I did not see all my progress. I'm drinking, I'm drinking at night and dancing like a crazy woman, basically. Yeah.
I agree. I do think there's a stigma in the Black community. I always think about it as too. I think a lot in the Black community, we're not even diagnosed. Like, there's a lot of us have all types of mental conditions that have never been diagnosed. And just thinking, because I just think, like, me and a cousin was having a conversation about someone else, and just thinking how when you're younger, you're like, oh, we thinking it's funny or you're crazy, and then we get older, like, oh no. This is a real thing. They're schizophrenic, or like, this is a real. So I think that's one thing is we're not diagnosed. It's just, oh, he's just bad. And we have all this. That's not being treated. I do, because just the conversations I'm having, I think now though things are changing. I think now a lot of, especially in the Black community, like, there's a lot of people more going to seek therapy. It's not like shunned. I say I go to therapy all the time. I don't know if it's something to be embarrassed of, but I mean, I'm not, but I don't know if people are still, like, if that's a stigma, because I freely talk about my therapist all the time as if I'm just talking about a friend. But I see a lot of us now going to get therapy. I do think a lot of us are starting the stigma against medication. I think that is still there, honestly. And I think it goes both ways. I think people, in my opinion, there are many people who, you know, you need, like, you probably do need medication. But then I think the stigma is on the flip side, that there's people that they feel like maybe that people are put on medication that don't need it. So I think that's the stigma where Black people feel like they're just going to put me on medication even though I don't need it. Mm-hmm. So I think that comes on both ends, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like, basically our distrust for the healthcare system. I think that's where some of it comes from. Like, I don't trust you, put me on these meds because I don't even, you know, I don't trust you. So I think that's a part of it. But I will say, I feel like I've seen a lot of progress, like based on just some of the conversations I've been having with friends, you know, and again, even with me, I have anxiety. I tell people all that, like, that's something I hide. I can just randomly like, oh yeah, because I have anxiety, or my anxiety, like I have anxiety. And that's something that I just openly discuss. I feel like that is something now that I'm seeing more frequently. Like, you see these celebrities now that are open with their mental health care. I mean, with their mental health issues, what they're doing about it, the care they're seeking. That's not something we really seen like when I was growing up.
Right. So. Right. I wanted to mention Naomi Osaka. She was fined $15,000 for not wanting to speak publicly during the French Open. 4-time Grand Slam champion, right? An outspoken social advocate, but activist. You know, that there was so much controversy around her not wanting to speak, but she was dealing with anxiety. She was dealing with depression, all the pressure that she had after beating, was it Serena Williams, right? Just this idea that she had to be perfect. That is overwhelming. I don't know what it is. I'm not a Grand Slam champion, but I can't imagine the pressure of being this young woman and taking over the reins as that title of that person. And, you know, she took a stand on her mental health and said, you know what, I'll pay the fine. I'm not speaking. I need to get mental health and get my health and prioritize my health. So just speaking on, you know, celebrities normalizing it. Oprah was one of the first people I knew that spoke out about her depression. After Beloved flopped in the theaters, she went through a depression and realized she was leaning on food to mask it. You know what I'm saying? And just coming to and coming full circle. I've read one of her books, just how she had to accept that was something that we can go through as women, successful women, or women trying to be successful. We can have these inequities, so to speak, but it's okay. And normalizing it is okay. So I mention those women because, you know, I mean, I don't know if we all look up to them, but societal, those are women that we look up to. Jennifer Lewis, Naomi, even Summer Walker. She has social anxiety, and she was made fun of on a public platform because she wasn't comfortable speaking. And people are like, how can you dress like that and perform and sing so well, but you don't want to speak? Because I have anxiety, because it doesn't make me comfortable. I'm comfortable singing. I'm not comfortable speaking. And a lot of what we have that's normal in our culture and society, like Dina said, you know, it's just like, oh, you know, you've known someone that's raped, or you've been sexually assaulted, or you're used to seeing people fighting, or being incarcerated, or having parents that have used drugs or have sex addictions, you know, knowing people that have murdered. That causes PTSD. That causes depression. Holding those things in as our normal culture and society based on our socioeconomic status, being poor. That, you know, they've been doing studies on kids and how that affects their mental health and how it affects how they see themselves in society. Those things cause mental disparities. And because they're so normal, because the occurrence is so frequent in our cultures or in our socioeconomic statuses in society, we think that it is okay, but it does have an effect on us mentally. And I don't think a lot of us, well, maybe at one point we didn't understand that those things cause issues later on in life, whether you're able to suppress them, whether you're able to go to college and graduate, whether you have a successful life, those things happen to you and they have some sort of effect. So just even saying that out loud, like, yeah, if you were raped, you might have some issues past that. If you were date raped, if you were drugged, if you know, if you know someone that's incarcerated, if you know someone that killed someone, if you know someone that died, like those things unspoken about and unaddressed, those cause residual issues. And I'm here. This is cathartic for me to just talk about it and have this platform to say these things are normal, to feel certain ways, to feel sad for a long time. That's something to address. We can address it. It's not like, oh, I'm a strong Black woman. Let me get up and shake it off. Let me have a drink. Let me go dance it away. Let me, no, you can get help. I have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, crisis support. You know what I'm saying? You talk about it, just talk about it and get it out and normalize it and accept it as truth. And there's healing in accepting it and speaking on it. Yeah, I needed to say that.
Thank you for that. I mean, it needed to be said. And Amber hit on like one of the major points that is it's a stigma, but one of the bigger reasons that there is a stigma or less care or less talking about it is because we don't trust the medical professionals. Even some of the viewers were agreeing. Thank you so much, Adina, for being in your field, because I know that when I was looking for a therapist, so when I was looking for my psychiatrist, I'm looking for somebody that looks like me. I would literally go through all the websites and scroll till I found a Black woman.
I was the same. I was very particular about finding a Black woman.
Yeah.
Then even then, when we do find somebody, it's like so many steps to get from needing help and having conversations and actually getting that help. There's so many things. Like last year, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but when I found out, like the way that I found out, I was like, no, that can't be me. And then I'm looking at all the symptoms: overworking, overachieving, spontaneous things like staying up all night working on stuff. Just all of the things, when you go down the list, those are the things that are not only grind culture, but Black women, that's pretty much how we operate. We're always doing something, or always achieving, trying to accomplish, being silent and putting ourselves last. So I'm very glad that we're able to have these conversations, and also able to move forward in talking about and discussing mental health. Candy, I think it's great. I think it's big that you're able to talk about your situation in such a way that somebody listening could be like, well, I felt like that too. And she turned out fine. Maybe I can go and get the help. I can go and get the help that I need.
Yeah.
I can take whatever the pill, and if the pill doesn't work, that's another thing in our community. If the first medicine doesn't work, you may have to take something else.
Yeah.
But I know my sisters, different people, they'll take something and they don't like the way it works, and then they stop there. It's so many little different things that are keeping us from being where we could be if we can get our mental health together, whether it's that the diagnosis, whether it's the symptoms, knowing the symptoms, having discussions, breaking the stigma.
It's the effort with the follow through. Like, it's like, once you know, it's like, okay, what do I do? Look for a therapist, and then keep looking. And it took me months to find, I've been through a few rounds of therapists, but my last time, it took me so long that at a point I stopped looking, and then I fell deeper. And then you have to, okay, let me look again, because this state of being is not it, and just the follow through. Really, it's the follow through. Like you said, being taking the wrong medication. Do I try another one, or do I stop and just say, okay, that didn't work? It's really, you have to, there's an effort that you have to put in as well. And it may not be easy. But I know I didn't want to be where I was, I'm like, something has to happen, because I don't even want to be here. So let me try everything, all hands on deck, and get that support. I agree, Ashley.
It reminds me of something my therapist said to me. Just like, once you know your operating system, like when you know your operating system, put the tools in place.
Yes.
So you can operate as your best self, basically.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So once you know what, for example, I know I have anxiety. So me knowing I have anxiety, I need certain tools. And my tools isn't medication, because I haven't needed that. But my tools are things like observe, not letting get carried away with my thoughts, and let me
say ruminating thoughts.
Yeah, because when I tell you I can ruminate for real. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can go. So knowing before it gets there, just observing, knowing when I do get a little worried, observing it. Is this real? Like, is this a real fear? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
just once you know what your operating system is and how you are, just do, if it's medication, if it's, whatever those tools are, especially if you go to therapy and these tools they give you, I feel like use them. Like,
Yeah.
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 And I think even taking that step at the beginning is quite difficult. If you feel low enough, having the motivation to actually follow through with those things can be quite taxing and really difficult, because I already have the stigma. I already have these beliefs that this is not for me, or I don't want to really do this. So I had to first admit that I had this issue. And now I'm having all these barriers to access services. At some point, I may give up. And of course, just encouraging everyone to move past that space so that they can get the help, and knowing those signs when you're getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's where that support system comes in. So for me, I had to really accept that there were people around that were trying to help me, regardless of how dark the dark place I was in. A good friend of mine who's on call. What's up, Jackie? And her husband. They were like, we got you. We are gonna hold you down. However, we need to support you. Let us. Amber was one of those people. Well, let me know what I can do. You need to come over here. You need to sleep here just to change your environment. It does take that support system around you to help get you out of there if you don't. If you're not enough, because at that point I did not feel like I was enough. I was like, it's not worth it. I'm not worth it. No, I can't see past today. And it takes those people around you and believing in what they're saying, even if you don't, but so you don't believe what you're hearing. So that's a big part too. A support system is great. And that makes me want to say the purpose of getting my cheese back on my cracker and the Wellness Collective is to have that platform, that network. We have a website where you can look at different resources. We have different links like psychology.com and therapy for Black girls and boys. Go to the page and you'll see the link. But the purpose of this platform is to have those places if you don't know where to start. We're here to support you. Send us an email. I need help. And I don't know where to start. A lot of people are not as computer savvy as they should be, I'll say, because we are in the information era where you can Google anything and start there. But again, Cheese on My Cracker and the Wellness Collective, that's the whole premise of the platform, to talk about these things, to normalize these things and provide resources or at least connections for you to find the help and the support that you need if you don't have it immediately around you.
Absolutely.
They even have services where you can text when you're in crisis.
Yeah, there's emergency numbers. There's an emergency number.
There is an emergency number. It's different in every state, so you would have to, access those services, right, in your particular location. But the access to services now are overwhelming. Things are going virtual now, so the person who does go into the office or who does work a typical 9-to-5 job, they no longer have the barrier of, well, how can I get an appointment? Because they don't have evening appointments anymore. Yeah. Because you can take your lunch break and do your therapy session and do it virtually, so you can continue on with your day as normal, so you can be refilled in those moments. But the services are now out there and they're accessible, more so than they have been before. A lot of the conversation to me has to be around removing the barriers that we put in for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
That's one of our pillars for Cheese on My Crackers, removing those barriers that prevent people from getting the help that they need. And like Candy said, if you are looking for resources, you can reach out to us at info@cheeseonmycracker.com, or you can go to our resource page. It's a work in progress. It's steady growing. As we get more information, it gets more information. You can go to cheeseonmycracker.com/resources. And if you know some resources that we don't have up there, feel free to email us at that email address and we'll get it up there. We are coming to almost end of this conversation, but I did want to ask you ladies, I know, Adina, you work in this field. Did you find it difficult, like dealing with the things that you were dealing with when the pandemic started? Did you find it difficult getting help or looking for help to help you deal with those things that you were dealing with?
So I made it a point when I started to realize how serious the pandemic was. I was actually going through some personal things on my own also, that I found what we call a therapist's therapist. So a clinician specifically that treats clinicians, because usually, and as much as I love what I do, I meet people when they're at their worst. No one is very happy to see me when I walk in the door. Generally, it's
Mhm.
because you're in a crisis, or you're in a state of, I don't know what else to do. Especially when you work in the hospital, because that means that we become a danger to ourselves or others.
Mhm.
And I do, at this point, I am in crisis and I need assistance. So I found it really helpful to meet with a therapist who I could have a conversation with, even about the things that I was picking up from the feedback that I was getting from my own patients. Like, people give you things sometimes, and you can
Mhm.
only hear certain things but so many times before you start to internalize things. We're human beings. Just because I'm a trained clinician doesn't mean that I'm not human, and that some of the stories that I hear don't become too much to listen to. So making sure that we took care of ourselves in those moments. And as soon as insurance companies and everybody else allowed people to go on virtual, it became this over explosion of, here we are here, and these are the things that we have available to you. Different populations got impacted differently, because virtual doesn't work for everybody. You have somebody really old, virtual doesn't work for them. They cannot navigate virtual, and they can't even connect with their therapist in that capacity. Someone really young who really got impacted because they came out of school and lost that social interaction.
Yeah.
They already had the social media that was impacting social interaction. Because I don't know about you ladies, but when I went to high school, I was on the phone with my best friend, sitting under the table for hours. Children lost that with Facebook and MySpace
Mhm.
and TikTok and all of these things, where they no longer communicated verbally. So the communication was already impacted. And the force where you had to approach having social interactions was different. So that population got impacted pretty heavily as well. That young adults, young adolescents, where they lived their lives outside and wanted to do all of these things. So yeah, I think it was pretty important at that time, and we did gain a lot of services in our community because of it.
Yeah, I think it's good that you keep reiterating that these resources are here. They're growing, they're available, and it's important for people to know that. It's not like, it's not like it was 5 years ago. It's not like it was 10 years ago. The resources are there. There's so many resources, so many resources. Even, some employers offer crisis support. I was able to use that and get a great therapist through crisis support. So the times are changing, and the stigmas are dying down. So for sure, for sure.
And some companies are doing, even you mentioned that, have wellness stipends. There's
Mhm.
quite a few companies where they
Oh,
give you a stipend every year, a wellness stipend, say like where you can use it, whether wellness is fitness, whatever that wellness is, but you can write that off. So I know a lot of companies are moving in their stomach. Well, I get not all, a lot. I said a lot, and I'm like, I'm not going to say a lot, but you're starting to see companies are trying to invest in wellness.
Mhm.
EAP is a big one when you work in a
that's what's called
bigger
EAP.
company.
Yes.
Yeah, EAP, they will give you 6 sessions free. So not even charging your insurance, they will give you up to 6 sessions free when you're going through crisis, even going through divorce, going through anything where you feel like you can't manage in the moment and need that assistance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The help is there, people. It's there. We're trying to normalize the conversation about it and get you the resources you need. So it's there. It's there. And I appreciate this conversation. Ashley, do you have any closing questions, statements, comments?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to just reiterate. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for coming in and being a part of this conversation. I've enjoyed talking with y'all.
Yes.
For those of you watching, if you're feeling alone or your cheese isn't quite on your cracker, you can go over to cheeseandmycracker.com to check out our resources and get help Or if you need, again, the email is info@cheeseonmycracker.com. If you're feeling suicidal or need immediate help, please call 988. There are people there 24 hours to help you. And then I'm going to get the information as soon as possible from Adina to let you guys know like where to find your number for your state so you can text for help. Do you ladies have any closing words that you would like to give?
I just want to say thank you for doing this. It's so important that we continue to have these conversations, like Candy said, so we can normalize this. Life is not easy and never comes with a roadmap. No one gave us a blueprint and say, here, go out in the world because you're going to do it beautiful if you do it this way. So it's okay to not be okay.
Yep. And I would say just thank you for having me. Thank you for having this platform and this conversation. And yeah, everyone check out those resources. And I did want to mention something because I think too, a lot of times when we think mental health, we just think like there are situations that can happen that can, like when you mentioned divorce or maybe death. I started seeing my therapist when my dad passed, and I just had such a hard time handling the grief. So there's a lot of times too, it doesn't have to be like you have, maybe a mental health issue, but there's things that happen in life where it may cause you to need to go seek extra help. I just wanted to put that out there too.
Absolutely.
Yes. Ladies, we thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your words. Check us out everywhere at Cheese on My Cracker. Ashley?
Again, thank y'all. That's my favorite word in case y'all didn't know. Thank y'all so much. And that's all we got for y'all.
Bye.
I clicked it.